Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Boom. Well, we're out of Moon Knight and we're into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was the in the part until yesterday when the title came out. I was just like, oh, I've just been calling it Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness this whole time.
Yeah. It is wordy. I think Multiverse of Madness works as well. Like if they said Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness, it'd be fine. I'm pretty sure it is called that in some countries.
Maybe. Probably on some marquees.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to just say it right away. I really enjoyed this movie. I had a lot of fun, but I've seen people really don't like this movie.
Yes. I'm still a little undecided. I'm still on the fence about this movie.
I see
to be
that
perfectly
people
honest,
don't like that they didn't get the cameos they wanted or the amount of cameos they wanted.
of course. What more? Of course,
I will ignore that because that's stupid.
I'm totally ignoring that.
We've talked
because once we talk about the Illuminati, I'm like, what more do you want from this movie? Like, come on. I guess they wanted King, but whatever. Yeah,
that's the other thing. People are complaining that it didn't like plant a flag for what's next in the MCU.
But I'm like, that's
well, this was closing off a trilogy, and they said that. They said WandaVision, No Way Home, and Multiverse of Madness is a trilogy. Sure, it was going to come out.
I did not realize that. Yeah.
Well, that's why we remember when Jamie Foxx said he was in the movie. We're like, oh, that's right, because it's all connected to the Multiverse of Madness. And that's why we were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. He would be in this, because at that point we knew in quotation marks that Multiverse of Madness would happen first. So we're like, oh, that must be where like Jamie Foxx breaks into Spider-Man, and then Doctor Strange will have to fix it. So we all like, maybe we didn't remember, but we knew that this was a trilogy on its own. So
I see.
This was the last movie, or this was the last entry in that trilogy. So no, it wasn't going to be like, and now this is what we're doing for the rest of Marvel. That part doesn't make sense to me, that people would be upset about that. And then the big thing was people don't like how Scarlet Witch is treated in this movie. And I was like, that is the strongest part of the movie for me. So I'm at a loss for what people wanted out of, I mean, I think we've mentioned what people wanted out of it, but what do people who are actually engaging in a proper story want out of the movie? Not people who were looking at this as something to commodify and fanboy over.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, now this is just my bias because of the people I've talked to recently about this. I believe they thought that there was going to be a redemption arc for Wanda. And I think that's why they're upset, because of how the movie ends.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is her taking one for the team. So this is what I like about the movie.
Is it her taking one for the team though? Like, or is she
she's
just
like, I'm getting
taking
rid
accountability for her actions?
It's her saying, I'm going to get rid of the only way I know how to be with my kids so that no one else destroys the world. That's the movie, right? The movie is, this is what I like about the movie, is that it is about sacrifice. So there's people who feel like others are being sacrificed for other people. There's people who are like, I need to sacrifice for myself. And what I love about that is it plays into the question that keeps coming up throughout the movie is, are you happy? And I think the movie lands on happiness is a life free of sacrifices, which Wong and Strange say. Basically, like, well, no, because we're sacrificing so that we can save the world, but I still find peace in that. So it's saying like, just, you're not fully happy because obviously you're making these sacrifices, but that doesn't mean you have to be sad. Like you can still find peace in that idea. But what I like is this movie is just in direct conversation with sacrifice. Every scene basically is, is someone deciding they're going to sacrifice someone else, is someone deciding they're going to sacrifice themselves. And so for me, that's a very clear what we've been missing from some of the latest Disney Plus shows. And so for me to see that in this, I mean, like, I have a very clear vision of what they're trying to do, and it all ties together at the end. If you're looking at Scarlet Witch, she is someone who's like, I'm done sacrificing. Everyone has taken from me. And so for the whole movie, she's like, yeah, I'm not sacrificing. Like, fuck off. I was trying to be reasonable, and you guys are forcing my hand. And I want my kids. Are you seriously going to let all these people at Carmitage die just so that I like to stop me from killing this one kid? You guys are the idiots. You're seriously going to stop me from doing this? And like, she's telling, and I'm not saying I think she should get what she wants. I'm saying she has a very clear mission statement.
Yes.
I want to get to my kids. And not only that, I want to be in the multiverse. That way, she says, if they get sick, we can just go to another one where they're not sick. We can just go, like, it's very clear what she wants in that sense.
Yep. She wants that life forever.
Right? Yeah. And it's not the same goal, but it felt like Killmonger, where you're like, well, yeah, I guess she has to die then, because she's not going to stop. This isn't okay, fine, you can talk me down thing. It is, no, I know what I want. I'm done sacrificing. Everyone else is going to have to start sacrificing because I want what I want. And then at the end of the movie, and it's a great moment. I mean, we're doing this pretty early, but I don't know. I haven't seen other people talk about it. It's the moment where it's two moments. It's when America Chavez pushes her into the world so that she can't do the sleepwalking thing or dream walking thing.
Yeah.
So that it's actually her kids seeing her as Scarlet Witch, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And it's like that realization of like, this would mortify my children.
Yeah,
if they saw what I'd become. And second, her being like, it only lasts for a second, but they start throwing things at her, and she's like, "Please stop, please stop!" Like, just the anguish she's feeling when she's like, "Right, like, this isn't what my kids would want." It's fine for other people to tell her that, but to like live that moment of, this isn't what my kids want.
Yeah,
a sacrifice does need to be made actually on my behalf.
Absolutely.
And so then the other Scarlet Witch telling her, just know they'll be loved. That to me is great writing. That is exactly what's happening. There is no like, I don't know what's going on here. And I understand that people are like, well, she's the villain, and but it's not. I've heard it argued her downfall is that she's a loving mother, but that is actually what saves her. It's the fact that she was on a mission, and the people who were complaining actually added a layer I didn't even remember from the movie, which is she was also under the control of the Darkhold, which multiple times it said it's going to corrupt you. And it's her love for her kids that breaks through that Darkhold that makes her be like, oh, right, I need to be done with this mission. Like, and I will take it off the board for everybody, because it is better for this universe's Wanda to just have her kids and not for me to insert myself in this. So I do think that it all plays into what the movie is, and Scarlet Witch is a great through line for that idea of sacrifice and happiness and how those two work together. So yeah, I think she's the strongest part of the movie. You might not like that she's the villain, but I mean, she in the comics for times is a villain.
Yes,
it's not a.
She's very heavily a villain through the comics. And also, like,
if the other thing that they're complaining, like, I'm speaking specifically about the Midnight Boys on the Ringerverse, and they were saying like, one of them who I agreed with said like, it's not essential viewing to watch the shows, and I only agree with him to the extent that like, someone could just watch this and be like, yeah, okay, that was a fun time. Like, obviously you're not going to get every nuance of it without seeing WandaVision, but for them to sit there and be like, so she's just a villain after we saw her, I'm like, well, you didn't watch WandaVision right then. If you thought that what she did in WandaVision wasn't egregious. She held a bunch of people hostage so that she could play make-believe, and they were in pain. It wasn't like, oh, well, you know, like, they were talking about how agonizing it was. So like, for you to be like, oh, so now she just is a bad guy. I'm like, she was a bad guy in WandaVision. She was
straight up a bad guy. Yeah, that was the origin story.
So you watched the show and still didn't understand what was happening. So to the other person's point, yeah, it's not essential viewing if you could actually watch it and still not understand what was happening.
because even then, like the whole movie, what it does do is it rewards you for watching MCU, the Disney Plus series. It rewards you heavily because you're not phased in the beginning, right? The moment, I'm so glad I wasn't like late at all for any of this, because I would have missed so much, because the movie just gets going right away.
It's right away.
And it's right away, and it's so fast, and it's like, yes, this is what I wanted. Just pick me up and go, right? This is Doctor Strange 2. It's not, I don't need to be introduced to anyone. You shouldn't be showing me a whole lot. It was just jarring to see, like, oh, American Chavez is the first scene that, like, right away, and we don't know her character.
Sacrifice thing of her being
exactly
like, fuck, you're gonna kill me.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. To set up, like, oh, this is about sacrifice and all this kind of stuff. And you know, like, seeing, then having that brilliant thing of like, oh, it was a dream, and then later on for the movie to establish dreams are our way of tapping into the other multiverses. And I'm like, that's brilliant. That's really cool.
This podcast thought that was stupid, and I was like, really?
No, that was the coolest thing in the world, because otherwise, how do you get to dream walking if your dreaming self is not attached to another part of the multiverse? Like, we have to be able to do that. Otherwise, you can't control that power of dream walking without, like, that's
look. I think
I love that. I will say the whole, like, dreaming thing.
I will say this once and never again. I think it's wild that there are people out there like the Midnight Boys that get paid to do what we're doing for free, and they could be so obtuse about what they're doing.
I completely agree.
I think that's wild.
I do think it's wild. Yeah. There are some things where, like, I will agree that you and I are underpaid for this, and doing a better job of providing, like, better takes on content than most other people are with, like, paid positions. It's I don't know if it's because they have to play the politics of, like, we have to keep our jobs, so we have to say something that's going to appease like 60% of the audience or something like that. But, like, I completely disagree with that take. Like, I was watching it with people who I would say the audience I watched it with, they did not finish WandaVision. They watched No Way Home with me. And I guess that's all they needed to really figure out what was going on here. But one of them has bad memory. The other person just didn't finish WandaVision, and both of them knew what was going on, and both of them were okay with it. Yeah. So I was just like, how does this podcast not understand that? Like, even she abducted a whole village.
She did that, but it's not, they were trying to isolate a thing that would turn her bad. But from the beginning,
not possible.
She lost her parents. Yes. That's when you first meet her, after she's grieving the fact that Stark killed her parents. Then in that movie where you meet her, she loses her brother, who she was clearly very close to.
Yes.
Then she loses her husband in Infinity War. They're not even talking about WandaVision. She says,
not even losing.
I had to put a hole in my husband's head.
And it didn't even make a difference.
Yeah.
That's what she said. And I'm like,
all of that, I'm already on board with what she's doing. Because if I hadn't seen WandaVision and I just see a dream where she's like, I had kids and now I don't have them here, I'd be like, oh wow, okay. Again, I'm rewarded because I know the depth of, like, anguish she would feel, because I saw her love them. And I liked the moment where he's like, you just made them out of magic. She's like, yeah, like every parent. Like, that's, I mean, she said
I do like that.
Like,
but like every mother does that. And I'm like, that's clever. I like that.
Like, as I've said, like, I never really cared about Scarlet Witch, but like from WandaVision, and I cared about her in this movie as well. I just feel like that is good writing. Like, it's a heel turn. Sorry, you don't like that, but that's a
great heel turn. Because here's the thing I like about this the most, right? I think what most people are expecting out of these movies is for trauma to turn someone good and make them more powerful and better. That's not what trauma always does. Trauma can really screw someone up. And in Wanda's in Wanda's case, we clearly see the de-evolution of her character. Like,
we also saw her try to be the good person, and as she said, it didn't matter. She still lost everything.
She gets screwed up. She gets screwed over. We're talking about like exactly that history, highlighting that when we meet her, she's supposed to be like a teenager, like early 20s, like something young, like impressionable young. Okay, with these powers, corrupted through Hydra and all that kind of stuff. Like, the seeds of a villain were already there She turned
Well, I mean,
good.
when we met her, she was the villain. Like that
Exactly.
was her thing, was I am the villain. And then
exactly. And then she turns
turned
good.
and
we
then
got a couple of good like things with her.
She
And
had a run of being a good guy and it didn't work. And what I also liked about it, I don't know how intentional it was, but like it was what we're seeing now for some people, just seeing like, oh, like the system is rigged. Like it isn't about just do the right thing and everything will be okay.
Yes, it's about how your narrative is perceived out in the public too. Like we'll get to that when we talk about the Illuminati, which is a very interesting talking point. But for people to not understand why Wanda would be such an effective villain, I'm just like, I was waiting for this movie to be like, finally she's the villain. Because like,
or just finally she is it's kind of what I said about the Killmonger thing. Like it's finally like she has a path forward. Like she's like finally
knows what she wants.
She's done being like, oh well, yeah, me and my brother had this idea. Me and Vision had this idea. Me and Steve had this idea. And it's like, nah, okay, I know what I want. I want my kids. That is happiness to me. And I don't want to lose them again.
Because even this is one thing that's really important. I don't know if those other podcasters or other content reviewers or whatever had picked up on this, but that discussion between Wong and Strange about like, hey, when we save the world, did you find happiness? Like you said it earlier. You think that would get you there, but he's like, nope, it doesn't. And like Wanda, for her to save the world and sacrifice so much, she should have some happiness, right? And that's all. Like, she's never really had happiness. And
well, I mean, we in WandaVision they show when she was happy, but
it's a delusion. Like that's a problem. It's not genuine.
I've said when they were. Sorry, I didn't say. What I meant was when they were doing the flashbacks to her home life and when they watched sitcoms together. That was her happiness.
Okay, that's fair. Fair enough. Yeah, but ever since then,
yes,
nothing but
Stark
trauma.
Took that away. Yeah.
Well, was it Stark or was it just a Stark missile?
It's just Stark Industries, but yes, she put a face, and also kind of he made Ultron, which destroyed Sokovia, which took away her brother.
That's true. He is directly responsible for a lot of, or indirectly responsible for a lot of their trauma too.
So if I'll take it off of this podcast, which I'll continue to listen to sometimes, I guess.
Right.
Because they are, it's 3 Black men, so I feel kind of like, well, I mean, hopefully, but they also didn't really like Falcon and Winter Soldier and seem to be completely missing the point on that show. Right. Also, maybe I don't have to give them that leeway anymore. But if their argument was, Tony does a bunch of terrible things and we still consider him a hero, I still would feel like it's different, but at least I would feel like they kind of are getting the concept here of when someone selfishly just decides, I'm not going to be sacrificing. Just sacrifices need to be made, but I'm not going to be doing it. Then I can see that being a better thing than just completely missing the point on how Wanda Maximoff got to Scarlet Witch. She even says at one point, like, give her to me. And we're gonna be good. And he's like, well, what if we don't? She's like, well, then it won't be Wanda coming, it'll be Scarlet Witch. Like there is a clear distinction being made. And even the way Agatha says, holy shit, that makes you the Scarlet Witch, like you put it out there already, like you're the bad guy. This doesn't mean Agatha's not a bad person either. It's just like you are also a bad guy.
You're the bigger bad. Yeah,
you're the bigger bad. You are very powerful. We can get to that when we get to Illuminati, because I felt like they kind of missed the point of that as well.
I felt
like they were the podcast was like, oh, they went out like bitches. I'm like, no,
they didn't.
That's was
to show her power.
They use Illuminati so that comic book fans can be like, holy shit, like that's pretty up there.
It's a deep cut.
Deep cut, but also just like that's like they get shit done. Like they're almost untouchable. And then to have Scarlet Witch just take them out the way she does.
Just dismantle them.
Something that says like that isn't just for spectacle. There is a point of making it the Illuminati and not just other heroes you've seen before.
Like it's honestly like, think of Wanda's power is so high, and this is the whole thing of the whole movie, right? Agatha even says it, where your powers like it goes beyond the Sorcerer Supreme.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
and she was just wiping the floor with Wong. She was just wiping the floor with everyone. And it was just like, this is a movie that I
She
don't
almost
get.
took out Thanos.
Exactly. She almost did. And that was when she didn't know her powers.
Yeah.
Now that she's known and developed but corrupted her powers heavily, it's obviously very, very different.
Mhm.
But it's still like this is a through line throughout her whole thing. It's just like, it's when people are like, I don't understand like why she changed. I'm like, well, then you really don't understand how multiple things have added up into this one thing. It's not, and she's always been the villain.
And that's the weird thing coming. I know I said I'd get off of them, but coming from the people who are like, no, it all counts. You got to watch everything. It's like, well, if you're watching everything and you still don't understand, the one person who said it doesn't really matter has a point then.
Yes, it's true.
Because you actually were watching everything, getting, maybe they didn't do WandaVision.
Yeah.
But still were around where there was a public discourse about it.
Yeah.
And then also knew that there was movies of Wanda's character since 2015, since 7 years. Like, she didn't just show up in WandaVision, is my point. So it is accumulative. And and as I said, I don't even need WandaVision to be on her side for this movie. Especially when you add in the Darkhold corrupts you. But even if she wasn't corrupted, I could see her being like, you know what? I've lost a lot. And I was a hero. And look where I ended up. Alone. Like, and I don't know what the like Sokovia Act is in play or whatever, but she was on, in quotation marks, the wrong side of that. So like she's considered kind of the villain anyway, without doing the killing of children and stuff like that. Like she's already like legally going against the law as a hero. So I wouldn't need them to also explain, and also she's been corrupted by this book. And
let's not pretend like there's definitely consequences to taking a whole town under hostage, right? There's definitely consequences to that. So
I'm
it's
saying even with that, so like I know you're just adding on. Like it's just like, I think I need to hear more takes on the Scarlet Witch thing, because to me she's the strongest, which is why we spent almost 20 minutes just talking about Scarlet Witch, because she is to me the strongest part of the movie. And as I said, if you walk through all the beats, she crystallizes what the point of the movie is. Happiness in conversation with sacrifice. And leaning on the side of, well, happiness is sacrifice-free living, but that doesn't mean that you making sacrifices means you're in a bad place. So I think she really worked for me as a villain. Like I really liked that they just were like, oh no, she is the villain the whole way through. Like there is like that meeting they have at the beginning when she was like, you never told me her name, did you? I'm like, holy shit, all right away, she's just the bad guy. I wasn't expecting that. I thought I was not expecting frustrated over time, but she's just like right away like, oh no, I started the movie. Like that scene you saw at the beginning, that was me. Like,
that was me. I've been doing it. I was being reasonable. One thing too that I want to highlight that I really had this idea of years ago. I read this book. It was called The Art of Happiness, and it follows around a Western psychiatrist or a therapist or something like that, doing a series of interviews with the Dalai Lama while the Dalai Lama was on tour in America or something like that. The whole point of the book is to understand what the differences of happiness are from an Eastern versus Western philosophy. And what Wong says about happiness and what Wanda says about happiness are fundamentally the exact reasons for what the differences are between Western ideologies of happiness and Eastern philosophies of happiness, in that Western ideologies of happiness are about making yourself happy and finding and bringing things to yourself, versus Eastern philosophies of happiness are about finding joy in doing things for other people. So what Wong says about like, I find peace in that is like, I'm finding joy in the fact that in some world, it's such a well-written thing. I don't know if that was meant to be there, but that was definitely a point
that feels like it's, so, I mean, I'm an easy mark. I like the writing in Rick and Morty. This is a Rick and Morty writer. He also did Loki, so I was kind of like, you seem to nail it on this one, but I don't know what studio intervention kind of pulled you away for it on Loki. But I liked the writing in this movie. I think that it was really well done for everything you're talking about, and that's what I mean about like when you know that like one sentence theme about something, it's easy to start like spinning off of that idea. It doesn't have to be just that, but it is once you realize this movie is talking about happiness's relationship to sacrifices, you can have your read on it, which is I think is exactly the read, especially when you look at the two people talking.
Exactly. Right.
That is very clearly what they're going at. Yeah, you can have my read about like, well, yeah, okay, so like it's about, you know, if you do make sacrifices, maybe you feel like you're not fully happy, but there is room in there for you to be happy about stuff. But to look at it as just like, they already showed us Captain Carter in the trailer. I already knew Professor X was in it.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Like, what do you? That's not how. And that's why I really pushed back on Hawkeye. Like, no writer's room would operate that way.
No,
sure, whatever about how people want to package it and sell it. But when you are trying to create to put the effort into actually getting something made, that thought process does happen. Some people do it better than others. I'm not saying it's, but it's still that thought process of, and as I already said, I'm an easy mark. I do like the writing on Rick and Morty for the most part, and I feel like they brought the good stuff of that into the MCU. But that is the type of stuff that needs to happen, and then you can put your Jim Halpert as Reed Richards in the movie because it is grounded in sacrifice, because even the Illuminati is like, hey man, we chose to sacrifice you for the greater good. Like it's all still in conversation with what's happening at the core of the movie. It's not just, oh cool, they brought this person in. It's what this is the story. Still we're still following what's happening and what is being discussed in the movie. And so yeah, I think it's very successful. The other thing I thought was very successful, which I have to admit I was wrong about going into it, was I was like, why would Sam Raimi take this movie? He's just gonna get bullied into doing stuff he doesn't want to do, which I heard he still feels happened. But I feel like, so I listened to another podcast, Blank Check, and right now they're doing all the Sam Raimi movies. So I've been steeped in Sam Raimi leading up to this movie, and I was genuinely excited seeing like, hey man, he's still getting to do the wacky stuff that made him pop, like that made like people like James Cameron be like, hey, I'm taking you to go see a Sam Raimi movie. Like like the camera work, which I think is like pure Sam Raimi, like
so good.
It's there,
so good.
Bruce Campbell stuff, like I love like the idea that it's like he just likes beating up on Bruce Campbell, because he didn't really beat up on Bruce Campbell in the Spider-Man movies. I'm just saying this in relation to Marvel stuff. Like him coming back, I feel like he got to actually make his he got to put his touches on it. I understand that it's still a Marvel movie, but like even that idea that it's like I can beat up on Bruce by making him the hot dog vendor and like having him hit himself for basically 3 weeks.
But it's not only that though. It's like the fact that it's like, oh, it's the left hand specifically, the hand that he has to cut off from the Evil Dead. And I'm like, this is so for fans of Raimi, which I am. I loved all his little signatures that he still got to do through the whole
like
thing.
I was so like happy about that I was like, oh, like he did get to do his thing with this movie. I understand that he's like, oh, they made me shoot Illuminati shit. Like, what? Fair enough. Like,
whatever.
I think
that's kind of like Gunn complaining about Thanos being inserted in Guardians 1.
Yeah, except for that, it still gave him a chance to do his horror stuff. Like the way they kill off Black Bolt is wild. Like I was like, whoa,
it's wild.
I guess before we get into it, I'll just say so the movie is America Chavez, not American. America Chavez can go through different universes. She's a multi-universal traveler. Yep. And Wanda,
but she doesn't know how to control that power in the beginning.
Exactly. So Wanda wants to use her so that she can go get her kids, and as we said earlier, make sure that she can She doesn't want to just use America Chavez. She wants to kill her, take her powers, and then that way she can constantly keep moving into different universes so that she can always be with her kids and never lose them. Doctor Strange has to stop her. That's the movie. So along the way, they go to different universes. Not a lot. I know people are also like, not that many universes. I'm like, I don't care. They went to different universes. I don't like.
The thing was, you could go to a lot of universes, which I believe that they did through the transition thing.
Yes,
like
they did,
and they did do that because that's when you go to different universes, you only really care about the visual aspect of it. Like really, when they spent time with the Illuminati and they're deep diving in that one universe, I'm like, this is so much better than the surface level stuff. I unless they're gonna do like a series like more what if episodes where like in this universe this does this, because you're stuck in a world where now like when people are complaining about there's not enough universes, I'm like, well, we have to get into a universe and explain every single universe. That's not fun. Like the whole like, oh, on this universe red means go. I don't want to do that every single time. It's stupid.
I'm glad we did not do that. I also like that I guess some people were like, that clearly wasn't our Baron Mordo. And he was just like, that idea that he was like, oh yeah, like, hey brother, I love you. And even Steven was kind of, or Doctor Strange was kind of just like, I don't really trust this, but okay, I guess we go on red here. And then it still turned out he's like, nah, I still hate you in every universe, obviously. Like,
I'm still jealous of you. I'm still jealous.
But yeah, so the Illuminati, basically we go to that universe. Mordo takes him in basically to be like, well, we got to get rid of all Doctor Stranges then. I knew you'd come. You knew you'd come. Here we are. I'm going to capture you. Christine actually works for the Illuminati to keep everything in check. And I shouldn't even say works for. She works with, because she is actually the one that got into like the multiverse and knows about it and knows what can happen. And they talked about incursions. I'm really glad I read Secret Wars before this movie came out. We'll get into that.
She's the one that she's the one that designates each one. So like the idea that like
confirmed our one that we've been following is
616, which is
838 or something.
838 or 836 or something like, I don't know, but it's the thing that's interesting to me is like, how did Mysterio get 616 right? I mean, that's just because when you go back to Spider-Man Far From Home, he's like, I'm from this is Earth 616, I'm from Earth this, and it's like, how did he get that right? But anyways, that's just one of those deep things where you're like, okay, cool, 616, he got it right.
So they go they're basically captured, and the Illuminati is Professor X, Reed Richards, Black Bolt, Captain Marvel as Maria Rambeau, and Captain Carter and what's his face, Mordo.
That's it, and right? That's it. And formerly Doctor Strange. That creates the whole idea of the Illuminati. And the interesting thing here is the use of Black Bolt, and specifically the use of the actor from the failed TV show.
I was fine with that because like he can't really talk, and good for him, he gets some redemption.
That's what I mean. It's just like I for Kevin Feige to be like, I hate the TV side of things, and for him to bring up like and reference the worst of it, in my opinion, it's just like,
I mean, he looked very different, and also gets killed off. So
he does look very different.
So he looks kind of like, different. You know what? Here you go. We're fulfilling your contract. You got to be in a movie. Bye.
We're giving the 40 fans of Inhumans their deep cut.
So I think that worked for me. The idea, and what I also think is for people complaining, I'm like, well, we don't know where we're going at. It's like, you act like everyone knew who Thanos was. So at the end of Avengers, when Thanos turns around, they didn't say, oh dear Thanos. It was kind of just like, who, if you didn't read the comics, you would just be like, who is that? And I know for a fact, because I also listen to another podcast called Newcomers, where they're like, I don't know who that is. Like, if you don't read the comics, it's not clear what Thanos is. And everyone extrapolated from there, like, oh, we're probably going to do Infinity Saga, like, because that's Thanos. So I think if someone says in a movie, you're going to cause an incursion, it's safe to assume we're going to do Secret Wars. I don't understand how people feel like one is like, well, they just said it in one line, that it wasn't clear, like when they showed Thanos. I'm like, I don't understand how you think Thanos is clear to people who don't read comic books. That was happening. Both of them are cuts for you who knows what's going on.
Yeah. I think it's one of those. I don't know what this is called, but when you take multiple choice tests,
Yes.
and usually they tell you like the first one you recognize is usually the right one. I feel like people usually do that, and then it gets attached to the first like Easter egg and the first fan theory they know, and then they die like they plant their flag on that hill and be like, oh, it's gonna be this, and I'm gonna block off everything else that comes my way. I just feel like it's one of those things where it has to be this because it's the first thing I recognize. But that's what I feel, because when people are like, oh, it's got to be this, it's got to be this, I'm like, I don't know how you got there, but okay.
I think I know there's a show called Secret Invasion, which I don't think specifically has anything to do with Secret War. I think they're two separate things.
Yeah, that seems
because I read
more
Secret
like a
War,
Kree
like
show.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to be like,
Samuel.
well, they have Secret Invasion, so obviously they're doing Secret War. It's Secret Invasion is something separate.
Yeah.
It's just, I think if you're dealing with multiverses and it's very clear, other than like Shang-Chi and Black Widow, these movies have been like, I guess Eternals was whatever, but like I think for the most part we've been dealing with multiverse. That's the through line, is like dealing with multiversal stuff.
Yep.
And then someone talks about incursions and the importance of not having someone stay in a universe they don't belong to because it's going to cause an incursion. I feel like that is enough for me to be like, if you're someone who needs to know where this is all going to lead, that is enough. And it's more than just showing Thanos at the end of Avengers. Since you thought that was such a like stone cold, like, well, we know we're off to the races, we know what we're going to do because I saw that guy turn around and smile. I don't understand how you can't track. I guess that's what I'm saying, is to listen to these adults say that they watched a bunch of stuff and then be like, oh, I don't know where it's going. I don't know what's going on. It's like, what have you been watching then? What are you doing?
Well, it's just, do they know the source material well enough, right?
So they're saying that's too soft to touch. They know what Secret Wars is, but that's too soft to touch.
I don't think so. I think
I'm with you. I don't think that's a soft to touch at all. It's just as
necessary.
revealing as Thanos turning around to me.
Exactly. It's a deep cut for those that know, and for those that don't. Guess what? They're spending some time on Wikipedia for the next little bit. Guess what? There's going to be some articles written from like, I don't know, Variety or Vanity Fair about Harry Styles' post-credit thing. Like, it's going to be explained. Content's going to be created. That's why we're listening. Like, that's why we create this, right? When people are like, that's not enough, I don't think. I'm like, I think they're really seriously doubting the ability for them to create content off that. Then it's weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't think it's a very valid complaint. I don't
either. I think I said it earlier on this, not this episode, but this podcast. Just, do you actually want answers or do you want to be mad? That's how I look at this now.
That's true. It's true. Like, are we actually listening, or are we just like throwing our hands up in the air and just saying the things that frustrate you out?
Because it sounds to me like they just want to be mad, and that's, I mean, I'm not going to stop them from just wanting to be mad.
Yep.
But
it's not about the movie.
Again, I'm at a loss for words when it comes to like, and they get paid to do that. Just be mad under the auspice of, hey, we're gonna deep dive on this and break it down for you.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a very good thing to stick to. I'm not just talking about us, but like just going forward, because I think we've seen how like poisoned Star Wars fandom can get, and I think,
oh god, yeah,
I don't think we're getting. I think we're there with Marvel as well. Of just, do you want to be mad or do you want answers? Like, so when people are like, oh, how come this? How come that? Do you want the answer or do you want to be mad?
Yeah, I just think the only I agree. I think we're getting there because now we're getting to a topic and territory where it's like, well, they did this differently in the comics. I'm like, but what? And then the Star Wars argument is like, oh, they're ruining my childhood. And I'm like, but what? That doesn't make sense. Like those movies were still there. Ironically, they are different because of George Lucas. But
yeah, the
still
sequel
there.
trilogy didn't ruin your childhood.
It did not. No.
Because you can't even watch the movie that was from your childhood.
Yeah.
If you're a certain age.
Yeah. You're
legally. You can't unless you own the VHS, you can't legally watch the movie that you fell in love with as a kid.
Yeah.
If you're a certain age. So yeah,
because
I wouldn't
of the
blame
special
that on
edition mix. That's not anyone's fault. Like,
well, I mean, it is someone's fault.
Well, it's someone's fault. But I mean, like, your inability to enjoy the new content does not prohibit you from enjoying the old content.
Yes.
Again.
Yeah, it's still, in most cases, still exists. If you're a Ghostbusters fan, just go watch the first two. Then you don't have to like complain about this other. It didn't erase the others.
It didn't.
No. But anyway, yeah. So I guess we have to get into the Illuminati. Basically, they're set up. I believe they said by Doctor Strange or something. It doesn't really matter who set it up. It was set up, and they realized like, okay, we make the hard decisions that people don't want to make. And yeah, that's. I mean, even introducing the Illuminati here and then talking about incursion, like that is Secret Wars. Like I feel like there's a bunch of stuff pointing at what's coming next, but whatever. Oh, yeah. So basically, Doctor Strange was like, "You haven't faced Wanda," and like, we can take it. And it's like, he's like, "No, you really can't." And then Wanda shows up and proves they really can't deal with her. Like just taking them apart. I'm glad that Captain Marvel lasted the longest, but like. At first they were like, yeah, just get Black Bolt to do what he did to Doctor Strange and say something. And she's like, how is he going to say anything? He doesn't even have a mouth. And I was like, nice. And then it's what I liked about, because I don't think this movie's a full-on horror, but I do like that it really pushed horror ideas, because it is the horror that Black Bolt feels of like, and then it's like, well, yeah, you just killed yourself. Like you just the idea of like, holy fuck, like my thing, it's gone. I can't do anything. His head that was wild.
It's not even, it was the way it exploded too. It was like it imploded and like it just it was like graphic. A vacuum. It was so graphic. Like each one of the deaths were so brutal. This is then probably Reed the most violent movie of the
Reed
MCU.
Was next, right? Reed.
I don't think like Reed. No, Reed was not next.
Who else would there be? Only 4 of them faced her. I mean,
they all faced her.
No, Mordo doesn't face her.
You're right.
So
Strange,
and we know how Professor X dies, but I think it goes Black Bolt, then Reed, and then Professor X, then Captain Carter, then Captain Marvel.
Yes, I think you're right.
And so she strings Reed, which was wild, like again very graphic. Gets him out of there. Then she pulls Professor X into her mind, basically, right? She's in his mind.
No, Professor X tries to go into her mind
and she
to save that Wanda that's trapped in there, and then she reverses the spell
and then snaps his neck.
And Professor X is an Omega level mutant. Like, that's crazy. That's insane that she was able to do that.
I mean, Kevin Feige has said multiple times she is the strongest, like most powerful, and I think this was a showcase for that.
And I love how the character needed to be off the slate. She needed to be.
They all needed to go.
I mean,
I don't think Captain Carter needed to go, but I think they all needed to go, because I think the idea is like I hope is like we could still have our Professor X. We don't need to stick with Patrick, which is what I've been saying. Like, I don't really want him to come back and just be Professor X. I would like
I'm hoping that's just a cameo. I'm hoping that's just a cameo, or that they get to continue that through like X-Men 97. Like I was thinking that X-Men 97 is going to be related.
They used the X-Men theme song, which was great. They didn't use Sorry, they used the
loved
cartoon
that.
theme song. They didn't use the Fox theme song.
Yeah,
They used
the cartoon theme
and
song.
if you go
So
through the
good.
credits, it's
Mhm.
called the X-Men 97 theme, not
That's right.
which is the show they're coming out with. But anyway,
Correct.
those I really like that. So yeah, he gets his nap snapped in his basically what you explained. I'm not going to retread that, but
Yeah.
it wasn't just brute force. It was really cool that it was like, yeah, come in, and like, oh, I can save you, Wanda, don't worry.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, you can't. And then Captain Carter puts up a fight, and I like that she got killed with her shield. It was because you're like, you are kind of like, well, how is she gonna, like, you can't like shoot her or anything like that, I guess. And they didn't reuse a neck snap. It was just like, I'll throw that right back at you then. Just throw your big weapon right back at you. It splits her in half and then just crushes Captain Marvel. But it was still like, I'm glad Captain Marvel lasted just a little bit longer than everyone else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Captain Marvel of that whole squad, besides Black Bolt, probably would be one of the stronger ones, right?
Yes.
So that makes sense. But just seeing that fight go the way it did was pretty crazy because she was holding her own for a while. And then Wanda just, nope, I'm going to stop toying around now and kill ya.
She said, like, I'm being reasonable. You want to force me to not be reasonable? Here we go. This is me being like, yeah, I know what I want. I don't really care what other people want. So that happens. Luckily, Mordo doesn't have to die, but it doesn't really give him a chance to, like, I mean, he fights Doctor Strange, which is good enough, I guess. But I do like that he ends on, I can see why your universe Mordo hates you as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to end that.
Yeah.
And that leads Doctor Strange, Christine, and America Chavez to go find the Book of Ashanti, which Doctor Strange of that universe hid. And then there's a nice little callback to the first movie where it's the watch that Christine gave him that opens it up.
I like that. What's one thing that only a Doctor Strange would know? Boom.
Yes.
The watch. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think we can talk about Christine and America Chavez. Let's start with America Chavez. So I really liked her as a character. I like it's not her movie. She's a MacGuffin of sorts because like people need to get her, and
she's a human MacGuffin.
But I like what she brings out of Doctor Strange, and that he's constantly aware of like what Christine set up, like, oh, you need to hold the knife. And throughout the movie, even Wong is like, dude, just kill her. Like, it's better in your hand. This power in your hands is better than in this kid's hands. And it's him needing to actually be like, no, like, I can't be the person that's like, well, others can sacrifice. And I think during the snap, he did sacrifice himself. He says, like, this is the only way I'm gonna. He did, but it's like,
but this is a true sacrifice. Well, I mean, okay, yes, it is a true sacrifice because he sacrificed himself. He sacrificed a stone to increase the chances that the only way would play out. And because he didn't tell Tony.
Yeah, and I like that he got checked on that from the Michael Stuhlbarg character. It was like, so they also said they didn't like that person checked him, and I'm like,
why?
That is his colleague.
Yeah,
someone who would be like, and also, like, what are you talking about? Like, that is a very reasonable question. Like, was that really the only way we had to do this? Like, especially since they point out that like other universes defeated Thanos by going to get the Book of Ashanti. Like,
and they did it differently.
So like it was
the only way for that version of the character in that universe at that time.
It was actually the only way that they could do it, and Doctor Strange doesn't have to die.
Right.
I think that's what he figured out was that, like, because I'm assuming he would have seen. He said how many versions he saw, and it was like, this is the only way we win. But yeah, I think him having to constantly check himself and be like, no, I'm not going to go there with the whole I can just do this better than you. Like, that he's actually trying to encourage her and make her feel empowered. I really like that because we haven't seen that yet.
No, we have not. And it's, the idea where we talked about like, like the mentor role. And I really like that this movie follows No Way Home, No Way Home, in the sense where
him learning from that stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. Like the whole like failed mentoring aspect from between him and Peter this time around, it's just like, oh, it's this makes so much more sense. He even talks about Spider-Man like in great detail with America Chavez in one of the scenes early on in the movie. So I'm just like, yeah, he clearly is building off that sequence. Like this happens, I would like to say, like within a month after Spider-Man or something like that. So I mean, this is fresh off his mind that he's like, oh, I got to be a better mentor to kids.
Well,
Like
he doesn't
screwed up
know
with the Scoobies
that
or
Spider-Man
whatever.
is a kid because he erased his memory. So
Actually, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't
That
lean
doesn't
too
even
much
matter.
on that. I think
Yeah.
it's just that's
Never
why I said
mind.
it's different. I
I
think
am
this
pulling back
actually
on
is
that.
him. I think this is actually him being like, it's more. That's why I connected it more to Christine being like, you always have to hold the knife. It's him recognizing like, I can't be that person with this kid. And to shift gears and not make this, how does this female character make the white man better? I like that she comes in and yeah, she doesn't know how to control her powers, but she is still fairly confident, and I mean not fully competent, but confident. And she is the one that's like, whenever you meet a new universe, like just do this. And it's not that she's right about everything, because she's like, oh shit, maybe food isn't free here, but it is like she is as far as Doctor Strange is involved, like a subject matter expert. And she also seems to have learned to live with her pain of like losing her mothers. It isn't like she's not like this cold-hearted person because that happened to her. That's what I liked about her, is that she brings energy. And again, if we're talking about sacrifice and happiness, she has made peace, like Wong, with that sacrifice. And yes, Doctor Strange is like, hey, that's not necessarily true. They're just in a different mode. That isn't necessarily that you killed them. I like that her character is even more strong-willed than Scarlet Witch, like Wanda was when we met her. That she's like, yes, my parents died, but you know, that's what happens when I didn't, like, that's the sacrifice I made to learn how to like get better. And again, that's why I like that Doctor Strange intervenes, but it didn't turn her into someone who's like prone to be bad.
Correct.
And so she's kind of in that Wong level of like, yeah, like this is a balance. There's a give and take here. This is, I can't live a life consequence free or sacrifice free, but that doesn't mean that I have to be sad all the time.
Yeah. I mean, the seeds of like her being quote unquote bad / evil or even higher because of the fact that she's directly responsible, right? So she has that ability to be sour, bitter, and angry about it and all that kind of stuff, but she's really just innocent and really accepted the fact that I was a freaking kid. I was scared from this bee and it just happened, kind of deal, right?
That's the other thing. She's like, oh, it only happens when I'm scared, but then throughout the movie learns like, oh, I don't have to be scared. I can just focus.
And I'm just like, that part of the movie is like, oh, how did you actually learn how to use the power is a little bit interesting to me, but whatever.
I
might be just forgetting that part. But
no,
whatever.
I don't know if I've only seen it the one time. I don't know if there's ever anything where it's like, oh, now I get it. Other than what Doctor Strange says, it's like, you know what, like just believe in yourself. Like you clearly you don't believe in yourself. That's the thing. You're very outwardly kind and like willing to help out, but you bring that back into yourself. And I think they hand wave it as like, and now she knows how to do it.
Right. I thought that part was a little bit weak, if I'm remembering that correctly.
If she was the lead of the movie, I would feel like it was more weak than I feel it is now.
Which is fair.
And I'm not saying that to say like, so it's fine that they skipped over it. I'm just saying, to me, this movie was Doctor Strange and Wanda.
Yes.
So, I'm fine with that. And I know that people are also like, see, she couldn't make the portals happen, so Ned shouldn't be able to. And I'm like, just to again revisit that, Ned was highly motivated to do something in a way that Doctor Strange wasn't. Yes, he wanted to be good at something, but he wasn't motivated out of a place of like, oh, I need to see my friend right now. Something terrible happened to my friend. And also they already said it's more, Ned is more prone to the magic because that's part of his family. Sure, it's information we only got in that movie, but we had it before he did the thing, and he wasn't that good at it. He opened portals, he couldn't close them. So to me, that's like, okay, I can turn on a car, but I don't know actually, like I don't think that makes me a genius at driving, and I don't think Ned is a genius at portal work. And
I agree.
America Chavez is again not motivated to like learn how to do that stuff. She's already got her multiverse thing. She's like, I'm doing this when I could just punch a hole and go where I need to go. So again, I think people are like, do you want to be mad or do you want answers? The answer is, one character already says he's already predisposed to this, and two, he's highly motivated in that moment to get something done. In a way, the other two characters we're talking about weren't. I mean, say they're motivated, but they're not as highly motivated, acutely motivated as Ned is in that moment.
I just don't think that's even fair to bring up. Like the whole like, oh, this is hard. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You can show us at multiple. There are some people that pick up things easier than others. Who cares? I'm fine with that.
That's the other thing. It's not the same across the board.
Like look how fast Doctor Strange learned all that shit because of his like eidetic memory. You know, it's just like his ability to go through all that kind of stuff allowed him to surpass Wong's knowledge like really, really quickly. I'm not complaining about that.
I think Wong still had the knowledge. It's just he didn't have the experience because he's like, I would never fuck with that stuff that you're fucking with.
Right, because Strange is just careless in regards to the ethics and morals of certain actions, for sure.
Yes, including not bowing to the Sorcerer Supreme. I really like when he bowed to him.
I like that a lot because I'm like ever since it was revealed that Wong is now the Sorcerer Supreme because of the dusting, I was just like, this relationship feels really shitty to me. Like how Doctor Strange is treating him. Like, it doesn't seem like you're respecting him the same way he respected you when you were Sorcerer Supreme.
Well, he was never Sorcerer Supreme.
No, Strange?
I don't think he ever officially got the title. I think that's
he did. He got it after the first one.
Oh,
he got it after Tilda Swinton died, and he saved the world, and he became the Sorcerer Supreme.
I didn't think that was the case.
I definitely thought that. I definitely remember that being the case.
You could be right. I just I thought the whole point was he's salty because he was on his way and then got dusted and then couldn't be.
No, he's salty because he got dusted and the title had to transfer to someone else because it's just a title. It doesn't mean he's stronger than Strange or anything like that. It just means he leaves
I agree
everything.
with you. Let's move on because I think we're gonna miss. I don't want to forget. He was Sorcerer Supreme.
So him finally bowing at the end of the thing is just like, oh, okay, cool. You're giving him respect. I like that now. I like it a lot more.
So I think we should talk about Christine.
The real Christine or the 836?
Nothing in this movie.
The 616 is just good at giving us that line in the beginning of like, you have to be the one holding the knife.
And that's why she could respect him but never love him.
Yes.
So then we have this new Christine,
redhead Christine,
and
Dr. like the Baxter Foundation Christine.
So she is basically like, I don't even have time for you. Like that's not a thing I'm going to entertain. And I know by the end of it when he says like, I love you, and it obviously means something to her. But I like that. She was just driven to be like, I'm trying to save the world. Like, I'm not really like here to make you feel better about your decisions or to like even entertain making you feel bad about them. Like I have something I'm trying to get accomplished here.
I've got a goal. I've got a mission, and this is protocol. You just look like someone I used to know. Boom. I like that.
And America has to be like, no, he's different. She's kind of like,
is he though? Is he?
Especially when she sees him with the Darkhold, she's like, "You're not different." But again,
Yeah.
but she gets to be part of the actual action where he's like, I know, I guess he trusts her to do the operation on him in the first movie. Or does he need an operation? Something happens where he has to like guide her through something. He
Yeah.
like astral projects and is like walking her through something.
Well, yeah, she had to do the clear electro thing right at the thing to destroy the other thing.
Okay, so this one I feel like she's a bit like it's actually her discretion and not just like
she's definitely in control of a lot more things and doing a lot more things. At least we're told, because she's like, this is the Baxter Foundation. I'm the one that names them. I'm the one that discovered them. And and then and then being pulled into the actual action the way she is. I'm just happy that she got a lot more to do.
That's what I meant was that she's in the action, not
sidelined in the first one. I mean, but in the first one, she had to be sidelined. You can't have her be a part convincingly of the sorcery kind of battles that are going on without her being like.
I'm pretty sure that character name is a night nurse, which means that she would be a part of stuff.
Right.
So they didn't have to sideline her. They just chose to.
Okay, fair enough.
Obviously she's not a night nurse. They've made that very clear, but that character name is a version of a night nurse, which was kind of where they started with Rosario Dawson in the Daredevil shows, and then kind of were like, nah, I don't really know what we're doing with the night nurse thing anymore. But there's been multiple night nurses, and she is one of them. So she can be more involved than she was in the first movie. But that's fine. We're gonna be rewatching that soon for the podcast, but like, my memory is it's fine. I liked it more than I thought I would, just like I liked this more than I thought I would. Have we talked? Wong, I think we talked about him. He's good ish. I like him in all the times he shows up. I was a bit surprised when he was like, honestly, just kill her. Just you use the power. It's like, oh, Wong. I understand why he said it. I know this isn't me being like, what the hell. I was just like, I guess they're doing that to make it clear that like Stephen does have an out now. If even Wong is saying you should do it, and then it makes his decision not to do it that much more impactful. But I was just kind of like, oh, Wong, no.
But I will say that was probably largely driven by the immediacy of the situation.
That's what I'm saying. I understand why he said it. I'm not like they were just trying to get. It's like
I don't think
the movie is well written. It's in that moment it makes sense for Wong to be like, let's stop fucking around. Just sorry.
Especially because he's the Sorcerer Supreme and supposed to protect that reality, right? So he's like, we got to do it at any cost. So. And if that's the most immediate solution that they haven't done yet, then that's his vote, and that's fine.
And it
doesn't change him.
And it's about sacrifices. We were talking about, like, it's like he's in that moment. It's like, unfortunately, this person needs to be sacrificed for the greater good. And then we find
what
out,
else?
No, she doesn't need to.
And then no, she doesn't. What needs to be sacrificed is Doctor Strange's need to control and play quarterback.
Yes.
And then boom, baby, Wanda sees a version of herself that she does not like. The mirror.
Yes.
Boom.
And she takes it all down.
You know what's interesting thing about that though? I thought what was going to happen in that Wanda scene where the kids are there and all that kind of stuff is that both Wandas are going to show off, like fight each other and all that kind of stuff.
Well, the trailer makes it seem like that's going to happen.
Yes, I'm glad that didn't happen because it didn't need to. Like that fight would have been so pointless. It would have been, why are we doing this? What needs to happen is the emotional connection where you realize that you have become a monster, even to your children in a different universe.
Well, especially to your children.
To your children.
If your whole reason you were okay being called the monster was for your kids, once they realize you're the monster, it's you've kind of defeated the purpose.
Yeah. It totally. And I like the part where she's like, I would never hurt anyone. I'm like, after the murder spree you just went on, come on, you're still covered in blood. I mean, that's Ultron blood, but whatever.
Yeah. I think that was a great workaround as well to make it clear that was, I mean, it's just Ultron blood, but to still have that striking image of blood all over her.
Yes.
I don't fully understand. I can see just this not being someone's cup of tea.
Right.
That I understand. I'm not saying people have to like this movie, but
Mhm.
I feel like it's got so much going for it, and I keep seeing people ding it for having a
Mhm.
bad story, and I'm not quite sure where the bad story part comes in.
So I feel like, okay, the one criticism I had about the story is like one of the first things I said walking out of the theater was, this feels like an Indiana Jones 2 moment where no matter what happens, the villain would have gotten to the same conclusion regardless of what the hero does. Right? It's like she would have, if she actually
Yeah,
did
but
kill America Chavez, she would have actually seen the kids, and the kids would have done the exact same thing. It's like that
but in this
part,
case,
maybe.
America Chavez doesn't have to die. That
Exactly.
it's not even the Thor Ragnarok thing that
Right.
you rightly pointed out, where it's
Mhm.
like, well, I mean, yeah, they still got fucked up because now they're in front of Thanos, so he didn't really save the people either.
Yes.
In this moment, they do save someone.
Mhm.
So yes, she still would have had that
Mhm.
realization that her kids find her to be, but I still think you need the hero's intervention in this story.
You definitely do, especially for the way everything rolls out. But like at the end of it, when, especially considering the fact that Wanda, like, you need, because the only thing that would have been different is whether or not Wanda would have destroyed the actual, what's that mountain called? Mount Wonderbar? I don't know.
Wondergore, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think she would have done that if she didn't have the
right.
intervention of Wong, Steve, Doctor Strange, and America Chavez. I
Yeah, I
do
think
think
she,
their
mhm.
intervention helps her come to that realization.
Yeah, it helps it put a stop to it totally. Because here's the thing: do you think that she killed herself?
I mean,
I
no,
have.
because I already know that they've announced the Scarlet Witch movie, but
Oh,
you're led to believe yes, she did.
okay. I fully thought she killed herself, man. Like, damn
That
it.
is what that's what they've led you to believe, yes. But they did announce the Scarlet Witch movie.
See, oh, now I gotta buy some cannabis for some people because I made a bet. I'm like, I swear to God, she's dead. What's the point of showing that
Well,
little explosion?
maybe it's like a Black Widow thing where they're doing a prequel, but I feel like we've really explored her past, so it
Oh
would only
yeah,
make sense to move forward. And also, it's called Scarlet Witch, not Wanda.
yeah,
So there's not much to mine out of her time as Scarlet Witch.
right. And whether, because my thing now is like, are we gonna start exploring different universes? Like, oh, on like this is Earth 363's Wanda or whatever, and we're with that Scarlet Witch, or with, we're,
You
like,
might. I mean, we might. I think that the idea is it's still going to be her. That would make the
right,
most sense to me, to be the 616 Wanda.
right.
But yeah, I think for now you're led to believe that she's dead.
Mhm. Okay, that's what I'm hanging on to right now. I'm not hanging on to fact she's alive or anything like that. I'm thinking she's dead.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the right conclusion to come to.
Yep. Everyone else is telling me she's still alive, and you know what though?
I
The
just
problem
assume
is,
she
like,
is
yeah,
alive.
if there's no body, then she's still alive. That's the law. I get it, but still, that little
I
red
think she's
explosion
too powerful for that to like just take her. Like, I mean, I
I
understand
do
she could
agree.
just decide to take herself out, but I
Yeah.
think her main goal was to get rid of the Darkhold and Mount Wondergore.
Yep.
I mean, the Darkhold was already destroyed, so it's more
Yeah.
getting rid of the Darkhold across the universes and getting rid of basically the Rosetta Stone, that basically tabula rasa that started it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Chthon translated into a book.
yeah. So
Good stuff.
hmm. Yeah, I think it's a strongly written story. I do, especially when you know what they're getting at.
Mhm.
I don't think there is much, if anything, that feels frivolous, um, like, or just added on for the sake of it.
Mhm.
Again, Sam Raimi might disagree, but also he didn't write it, so I don't know if he feels that much ownership on the
Right.
actual story.
Right.
Um,
And if it's only
it's
the
Mike Waldron.
Illuminati that he's like was forced to
Or
put in,
I
I'm like,
didn't hear specifically what he.
oh,
I just
okay.
know that it was from sources that knew for a fact that Charlize Theron was going to be in this, that knew for a
Oh, I
fact
see.
that Wanda was going to be the villain before people started talking about it. They said, yeah, the reshoots are to get more cameos in. And I feel like the cameos are strongly in the Illuminati.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's what and he
Fair
has
enough.
just said, yeah, they forced me to like do reshoots to put more stuff in for them.
Okay.
So
Whatever.
I'm basing it off of that maybe he was upset about the Illuminati stuff.
Mm.
I still think early on in the movie, and then sprinkled out through. It's very strongly a Sam Raimi type movie.
Yes.
And I think that's cool. I feel like that I was happy for him. I understand that maybe, but I guess why I don't feel that bad for him is like, yeah, you already knew that it's sure it's Kevin Feige this time, but like you think they're not going to force you to put stuff in this movie. Like you that's why you left the third movie, because they were, or that's why you left the fourth one, because they were trying to force stuff. I don't think they're going to change their mind now. But so I was just happy that any of his, because I feel like the same thing happened with I want to get his name right. I don't think it's the guy who did the first Avenger.
Director?
Yeah, Joe
Whedon?
Johnson. No,
Oh.
Joe Johnston. Not the first Avengers movie, the
Captain America, the first. Oh, I see.
Joe Johnson, I think, is another person who got to like do his style throughout the movie. And I feel, but still clearly doing a Marvel movie. I'm not saying Taika and James Gunn, because I feel like they actually just got to do their own thing.
Yep.
I'm talking about directors that clearly got to put their flair on a very specifically Marvel movie, and I feel like Joe Johnson and now Sam Raimi are two people that got to do that. I do believe that Ryan Coogler is in that James Gunn, Taika Waititi role of like he got to do something special.
Yep.
But some people might disagree. But I do think that like yeah, I was just happy that this came together the way it did. I had a lot of fun with it, and I also felt like there was a very strong through line that made sense for where all of the characters end up.
I feel my opinion about the movie is much stronger now, considering a lot of what you talked through. Because I didn't see that a lot of what you said earlier, but it honestly, like, I was on the fence of this movie. I'm now like completely on board with it. I like it a lot, but it's just one of those movies where to me that there's so much going on still that I'm so constantly distracted through the whole movie. And I definitely need to watch it again so that all those kind of visual distractions can could be muted a little bit more, so I could pay attention to the actual story a lot better. But like it's a really strong, like the thing it gave me was a Wanda Unhinged, and I've always wanted that. I've always wanted that movie, and they really just lean into it. Like you said, one of the first things you said was she's the strongest part of this movie, and I heavily agree with that. Everything from the dialogue to how she's just like tearing through people for the sake of her children and all that kind of stuff. It's a remarkable thing to see. It's just truly remarkable to see her just liked it. Tear everything apart.
Okay, yeah. So post-credit scene is Doctor Strange has a third eye now. Yep. And Clea shows up.
Played by Charlize Theron, baby.
Yeah, when I saw that spoiler, I was just like, I read it months ago and I was like, really? What? It's more just like, I know that Charlize Theron turned down Wonder Woman because they didn't want her for actual Wonder Woman.
Right.
So I was just like, maybe, I mean, that's a while ago, but still, like, you want this role? Interesting. Like,
I don't know too much about Cleo. Like,
so she's like Dormammu's niece or something like that,
right?
But she is I hate to put it in these terms, but she is a love interest for Doctor Strange, and they work together,
right?
As you can see in this, when she's like, yeah, you caused an incursion, we got to go fix it, and he's like, right, let's go for it. So I guess it is a version of him being able to have a relationship with someone who can do stuff he can do,
right?
So he had Christine in the first movie, who's the doctor like him, but now it's like someone who does the mystic arts like him,
right? Which makes sense.
I do feel like the movie kind of put to bed the stuff with Christine.
Like, yeah, I don't think that's going to come back up.
I mean, she can show up again, but he can love her all he wants, but she's kind of like, I'm not really like into
she's
that.
Unavailable.
Well, I mean, she's married, but also like, I can't be in love with you. Like, just fundamentally who you are doesn't work for me. So I think I think I like that a lot as well, of like, oh, this wasn't in a matter of, oh, I was just waiting for you to say you love
Mhm.
me. It's like, no, I see who you are. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, and I like the fact that he's finally repaired that watch piece, like
Mhm.
symbolically. It's just a nice piece. It's like, yeah, I am moving on from this part of my life, but I'm still rooted. I'm never forgetting, kind of deal.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
So yeah, Clea would be someone again that would
Mhm.
stimulate. I don't mean sexually, but just like eh, the same way Christine would stimulate him because they can speak the same language, so to speak.
Yeah,
Clea
like
can
he's
do that in his new world as a superhero.
yeah, I feel like he's someone that needs to be understood at his own game, and that's the best way to actually connect with him. As another human being.
So yeah, that's Clea. Um, I will say the person that was convinced that Tom Cruise was in it as Superior or whatever
Iron Man, yeah.
was wrong. But I did hear from other people that that came down to him being like, I don't think this is worth my time. I don't
Yeah.
think this is gonna.
Really? Oh God. I feel like he always does stuff like that.
I don't think he does 2-second cameo. Like I think Tropic Thunder, he's just in it. Like if they
Oh, he's full on in it.
He's just in it. But I don't think he does like, oh, I'm just here for a couple of seconds.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, to me, I was just surprised that the Illuminati was a lot more involved.
Yeah, but I think that's a team effort, right?
Yes,
like he's
true.
He might even look at that and be like, well, I'm sure people will be happy to see me, but from what I can tell, people were mostly just happy that it was Professor X, and I haven't seen a lot of reaction to John Krasinski. I'm assuming people really like that they got that fan casting locked in.
My theater went wild for it.
Okay,
they went wild for it. I think it's just one of those things where people aren't talking about it because they're being courteous with spoilers. Yeah,
but I think I think you'd look at that as Tom Cruise and be like, I'm the star of the Mission Impossible movies. I'm going to be the star of Top Gun.
Yeah,
I don't need to do this.
Yeah, and Top Gun was coming out that weekend too. It came out this weekend, didn't it?
No, it's coming out later in the month.
Oh, okay. The premiere was this weekend. Yeah. The red carpet was this weekend. But yeah, it's I that makes sense why Tom Cruise wouldn't do it. But it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, and I didn't miss him. I
no, I didn't care.
Yeah, I think it's a weird world we live in where you get John Krasinski as Reed Richards and like, what else?
Yeah, that's it. Like at that point, I'm like, okay, whatever.
I'm saying that as someone who didn't want him as Reed Richards. I was like, because I don't think he fits. And one thing I did agree with the Midnight Boys was he didn't play him like Reed Richards. He was so nice and understanding. I'm like, that's not Reed Richards. You just like the look of it.
Yeah, but
like he's not playing him as Reed Richards.
Mm-hmm.
Reed Richards needs to be more of an asshole. He needs to be so closed off to John Krasinski is the guy you want to root for. That's not Reed Richards is the guy that you're like, yeah, we have to do what he says. He's the smart one. He's not the guy that you're like, oh yeah, we go.
Yeah. I get it. Reed Richards has to be kind of mildly autistic to not realize what kind of a dick he's being too. Like that's the only way you can kind of I feel,
and that's not me being like I was so bummed when it happened. Like, right, as I said, I already knew it was happening before because that footage was released, and I was like, wow, they didn't release that. Someone leaked it, but I'm like, wow, that's wild that you just leaked that.
Jerk.
After the movie, when I went on YouTube, all I could see was people like uploading the footage. I was like, woof.
People are jerks.
Yeah. But again, you get Professor X back in his like close enough to like cartoon accurate
they were fully leaning. They were doing the chair with the green suit, the theme music. That's
you get Reed Richards,
you get Black Bolt, you get Captain Carter in that
scene. I know, but that part they already put in the trailer, so I can see people being like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, but seeing it actually work in real life is also pretty awesome.
I like the Illuminati stuff. I like the movie. I'm not I'm not someone who's like, oh, I wish there was more. Like I understand that there's stuff like, as we said, like they kind of skim over how America learns to use her powers.
Yeah, really quickly. I didn't like that, but
there's
whatever.
It's not a perfect movie in that sense, but I think it's a very fun movie, and
Yep.
I feel like they stuck to what they were trying to accomplish.
I agree with that.
Okay. Are you ready to rate it?
I'm rating it. I'm doing it. I will
right.
go first because I'm pretty sure mine's going to be a little bit less cohesive than yours, but this is now an 8.
An 8, great.
Yeah.
Mine is a 8.5.
Nice.
Oh, well, there we go. I think those are very strong ratings.
I think it's very strong. I think the only thing prohibiting me from going higher is the fact that I just feel like this movie is very, very stuffed. It's a very stuffed movie, but it does a lot of stuff really, really well. I'm convinced I want to go back, revisit it, and see what else there is, and just dissect this movie a little bit more.
I think, yeah, I do agree with this stuff, but I also don't know that there's usually when on a first watch through, I'm kind of like, yeah, I already know I don't want to watch this again. Like not the movie as a whole, but like scenes, and I can't think of sequences like that yet. But I'm sure if I watch it a second time, I'll be like, all right, here's where it slows down for me. But I think that it moves well, but it is stuffed. And some things get shortchanged so that they can kind of just get to the next thing. That is our take on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yep.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. We are part of the That Shelf Podcast Network, meaning we're on the same network as great shows like Bad Gay Movies, Black Hole Films, Changing Reels. So please go to thatshelf.com. You'll find those shows, our show, more shows than what I've even said. You're in for a treat. If you want to hear older episodes, please go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. And our Twitter is @tdfspoiled. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Wow. Get us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, whole bunch of places. Rate, review, share with your friends. Subscribe, please. Follow, whatever the word is called now.
Comment.
Comment. And just get in touch with us. Let us know how you feel about the movie, how you feel about life. I don't know. We'll listen, I guess.
What did we miss about this movie? What did we
I'm sure we missed stuff.
Oh yeah, like tweet at us or your preferred social media. I don't know. Whatever.
All right.
Do your thing. Just get at us.
Yes, please. Goodbye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.